History laid the foundation
that informs our conversation. Welcome to the classroom.
From the church to the streets, and even in the suites, and all around the world. I'm gonna keep it real in the classroom. Fannie Lou's classroom. Fannie Lou's classroom. Fannie Lou's classroom.
Good afternoon. I'm super excited to be kicking off Season 6 of Fannie Lou's Classroom, a classroom, this space where we have conversations around the intersections of faith, politics, race, and yes, even gender. So important conversations that we know are needed that we can't necessarily talk about on a Sunday morning. So we bring it into the classroom in the spirit of Fannie Lou Hamer, who certainly understood what it meant to exercise your faith in public life as a Black church woman who in her middle age, right, she was able to see that Christ was in the streets where it was happening, to use her language, and developed a good theology, understanding of who God was, who Jesus was, land, labor, you name it. She was able to move beyond voting rights and really became a human rights activist. So it is our distinct pleasure, and we found it a privilege to be able to bring her continuously in this space and to speak her name, and that we might move in the spirit of Fannie Lou Hamer in what seems to be times that she lived in, just in a different way, as we find ourselves in the midst of democracy going downhill. As it relates to what it really means to be a true racial democracy. And so we're excited to be here this season, but I always got to start off by thanking those who make this possible. And we have a new team member that I'm going to introduce, but we're going to first kick it off and thank Cheryl for always making sure our guests are well taken care of and make it here on time and have everything they need to be in the classroom. And of course, we can't forget Brooke. Brooke makes sure we have that good sound, that good quality video as we go live every Thursday here in the classroom. And then we have a new team member who has been already added quite a bit. If you've been following our Instagram page, you probably see an upgrade in content on our Instagram page, and that is Ashley Savage. So we welcome her not only to the Fannie Classroom team, but to Friendship West Baptist Church. And so we're going to just jump right in. I'm super excited for our guest on today as we start off this season. I thought it would be best to let's talk about, Black joy, because so much is going on around us, whether that's in our households and we have individual struggles, but certainly as it relates to us as a community and as really humanity, because everybody's being impacted by the current policies and laws that are taking place in this country. So we just want to talk about joy as a witness, that it might lead us to understand what it means to have resilience and respond to what's happening in this age of empire. And so my guest today really needs no introduction. She's not new to the classroom or to the Friendship West Baptist Church family. So I'm going to read a brief part of her bio, and you can go into the bio and read her full description. So we have back with us in the classroom the one and only, the Reverend Dr. Irie Session, who is a dynamic preacher, transformative leader, womanist scholar, published author, and spiritual entrepreneur whose life's work empowers marginalized communities to transcend barriers and to achieve flourishing. Raised in the vibrant, challenging environment of the South Bronx, and if you touch her the wrong way, that South Bronx gonna come out and you will know exactly where she's from. But it's all in love. She gonna do it in love because she has good boundaries. And so, listen, I just want to say this about Dr. Irie. When you think about what it means to be a womanist scholarist, what I would say, because she's just not a scholar, she's an activist in her own right. She is one of the ones, I look to her all the time. I follow her on social media. I read what she writes on social media, and I've had the opportunity to spend time with her one-on-one. We went to Salvador Bahia 2 years ago now. Yeah. Wow, 2 years ago. And I just have a deeper love and appreciation for her, a woman who stands in her truth. And so super excited to have you here. Y'all read more about Dr. Irie in the bio, but you'll learn more about who she is in this conversation again when you hear her drop a lot of knowledge on us today. And so let's just give it up for Dr. Irie for being back in the classroom.
Thank you.
Super excited. So, Dr. Irie, one of the things when I thought about we should kick off with joy as a witness, right? And then, like hashtag Black Joy, is because so much is happening to us, I would say, certainly socially, but also in the social reality impacts our spiritual, mental, and physical as well. So I said, man, we just have to start off with what it means to make sure you claim your joy. Don't let that joy get away from you. In the midst of this empire that's very oppressive, authoritative, right? And also just tyranny that is running rampant. And we see that from Texas, who our governor seems to be in competition with the president, making sure he duplicates the same type of really social and political climate, creating that here in Texas. And we'll talk about some of that too. And so I thought about, let's first start off talking about what is joy. And for me, when I thought about Fannie Lou Hamer this morning, I think about how she always sung "This Little Light of Mine." And I think when I first got to learn who she was and I heard the song, I always thought of like, okay, this light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, as more of a spiritual song, but was more like make pretending nothing was happening. Right? Oh, I'm just letting my light shine no matter what. Like over spiritualizing the song until I got to read more about her, learn more about her over the decades. And I was like, oh, what she's singing is, I don't care if I'm getting beat down in this jail on behalf of all people, right? Because she's resisting this system that's beating her down, saying you're not worthy of voting, you're really not worthy of living, because we'll snatch your life when we want to if you don't comply, right? And I said, oh, she really is talking about the kind of joy that she has. And it doesn't matter, that redemptive self-love, no matter what people said about her, did to her, right? She was like, I love myself regardless, right? Her mother instilled that in her as a young child. And I said, oh, that's what she was singing, going around saying, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine no matter what. And that's something nobody can take away. I mean, I can get real, and I think about when I first joined church at 18, Shirley Caesar was really popping, right? And so, she that's a song that song still resonates with me when she said, this joy I have, the world didn't give it and the world didn't take it away. And so I think I want to unpack that even more.
Let's do it.
Because I think that's what we're going to need to carry us through. Sure. And I'm not even going to say the next 3 years, because the damage that's being done, it's going to be done in 3 years. Even if we have another election, you have a Democratic president, we're still going to be feeling the impact. So I think somewhere here we have to really understand what joy is first, and then what do we do to make sure we nurture that and we nourish that in spite of all that's going on around us. Yeah. So talk to me about what joy means to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you for this invitation to kick off this new season of Fannie Lou's Classroom. And I think what Fannie Lou demonstrates for us is exactly what you were saying, is what joy is, right? So joy is not a feeling, right? It's a disposition, right? Joy, it's a mindset. It's a sense. It's a sense of oneself in the world. It's a knowing, Danielle. Mm-hmm. It's a knowing that everything is gonna be, that everything is all right, right? Not going to be, but is all right. Now, to be clear, this knowing, right, this knowing that everything is all right, may elicit some feelings, right, of inner calm and serenity.
Right.
But calm and serenity are not joy. They're the consequence of joy, right?
Correct.
But joy is that knowing, right? It is, it's an ontological posture.
Come on.
Right? It's a way of being in the world. And that's what makes it so revolutionary.
Correct.
Right? That's what makes it something that when we operate out of that mindset that nobody can steal, nobody can take from you. But if we associate it with a feeling of happiness, well, happiness comes and go. What's happy about being thrown in jail, right?
Right.
But even in jail, even in prison, even on the picket line, even, there can be a shift in the mindset, right? A belief that everything is all right.
Right. Now, when I think about even our ancestors, right, when I think about in the hull of that ship as they made their way through the Mayafa, right, there had to be, and how we define joy, the way you just defined it, it had to be there. And I think we have to look to different ways in which joy is expressed. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it could be me sitting on the beach, in Grenada, and I'm just at peace with myself. No matter what's happening, I know everything is all right. Or it could be I'm down in Austin testifying, knowing I'm standing before racists who don't care what I'm saying and don't care about the harm they're going to cause to people,
Yes.
but not letting that consume me to say, okay, I still know it's going to be all right.
Yeah, and so it means that remembering is important.
Correct.
Right. Remember in Black Panther, right? When there was the fight and the mother said, "Remember who you are," and so joy helps us remember. Right. It's that ancestral memory. It's that sacred memory of remembering who we are, who the divine created us to be. And so who we are in any given moment. Joy helps us to maintain our humanity even when the society, when the world is trying to dehumanize us. It is that knowing of who we are and whose we are and why we are. We are here. We have a purpose. We are purpose.
Talk about that.
Okay.
Because I think sometimes this is what I think, but this is what I believe, that we all have joy because that's something that's given to us by the divine.
Yes.
That God gives us joy. So talk to us about how sometimes we may not tap into that because we don't know our purpose. 'Cause I think like a Fannie Lou Hamer knew her purpose in life. She knew what God had called her to do beyond the shadow of a doubt. So that's why it didn't matter, the existential crisis that she found herself in did not impact how she felt about herself and what she knew her calling was. So she went forth no matter what. And that same thing with Dr. King, right? When he said, I went on to Memphis, I think he knew he was not going to make it out of Memphis, but he went on anyway. And it had nothing to do with, it's a circumstance. He already know going into the crosshairs, right?
Yeah.
That this is a real reality, that I could die here. And that's why he had that conversation, right, with God saying, I'm up here trying to do your will. And he had that small, still voice say, I got you, go forth, right? I feel like purpose is another way in which people can really tap into the joy and know that it's going to be all right because you're walking in the path that's set for you.
Yeah. And see, it being all right doesn't mean that death can't happen.
Correct.
Right? But our sister friend, Dr. Melva Sampson, she defines salvation, right, as liberation from the fear of death. I buy that.
I love it.
I believe that because when you've been liberated from the fear of the consequences, from the fear of death, like the Hebrew boys, right?
Correct.
Now, we you can do what you want, but we're not going to bow down, even if God does not deliver, right? It's that even if, and so that requires a faith. It requires a knowing again and tapping in to purpose. Knowing, and sometimes, Danielle, we may not know specifically what our purpose is because I think our purpose, we are purpose. Do you understand what I'm saying? We are purpose, period. Now, how we live that out.
Correct.
It transforms from time to time, from year to year, from situation to, but we are purpose. And so believing that and knowing that in your knower informs our action. And when we've been liberated from that fear of death, when we have that resolve, right, that, hey, listen, there's something bigger happening here, and I'm a part of it.
Yeah, it's the fear of death, and it's also the fear of opinions of others.
Yes.
Because sometimes that holds us back.
Well, that can be death dealing.
Well, it can be.
Right?
The
The opinions, the perspectives of others, when we allow those to overpower and dominate our sense of who we are, our sense of all rightness, then something inside of us dies.
Correct. Yes.
We can't be our authentic selves.
So it's both a what I would call a soul death. But also then that physical death is real when you living out your purpose, right?
Yes.
And you know what I'm thinking about? I don't want to butcher her last name, but the Zimbabwean woman Naomi who did her selfie went viral.
Oh, I didn't see.
So she's a lawyer in Zambia.
Okay.
So she's always just posting like we all do, and so she posted a selfie one day, and the comments were brutal, right? Like they talked about her nose, her like really just horrible, right? Really disgusting, right? Comments. And so she said she was going to take it down. She said, I'm not going to take it down. Right. And so she said, because you know what, that nose, my father gave me that nose.
Come on here.
To deny that's deny where I came from. So she's really to your point, right? I think somewhere where she said it was hurtful in the beginning with she got a different kind of joy too, right? Because something about that said, I'm not taking that down. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you why I'm not gonna take it down. And so now, she went to I think they said maybe a low number of followers. Now she has over 80,000 plus followers because I think a lot of people understand that, right? Of how maybe you always been made to feel less than because of anything about your appearance. Could be your legs too skinny, your hips too wide, whatever it is that people have made you feel that how God made you, right, is not enough. And she did another video and she broke down, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. So if you mad about what God made, you need mad at the maker and not at me.
Come on now.
Right? So she really turned that around and she's really setting that out to say, y'all can say all that, but guess what? I'm going to leave the picture up. And I'm going to leave the picture up. I'm going to get live and do a video about it.
Come on.
So I think she's an example of that.
Yeah, she took control of her own narrative.
That's right.
Right? You're not going to define me. And here's what I like, because I haven't seen this, but I like the way you told that story, is those words hurt her.
Yes.
Right? There's no doubt in my mind that Fannie Lou Hamer and all of our ancestors who went through some stuff had feelings about it. It hurt them. It wounded them. And they knew who they were. And they trusted. And they believed in themselves. And they kept moving forward and risked it all for what is right and just.
And so how does then, so to your point, to talk a little bit about for people who may be listening, how does joy lead us to being resilient, right, in the face of, so I think about again, if you're a Black woman in America, particularly if you work for the federal government, over 300,000 plus women have lost, Black women have lost their jobs, right? Many of them overqualified to apply for a lot of the other jobs that may be out there. I read a report that said for the first time since 2020, there are more unemployed people than jobs that are available. So how do we speak to even sisters in this moment where, my livelihood has been impacted? Some people losing their homes, trying to see how they're going to take care of their children. So let's talk a bit about, because that's a real existential crisis, right, that is going on, and how might they tap into that joy and let that be a witness that we say everything's going to be all right. To your point, all right can mean a number of things.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. So, well, I want to first just express the grief that I feel when I hear that and when I see that, right? Because I posted something recently that, I said, when America gets a cold, Black women get the flu.
Yeah.
Whatever's happening, it is going to impact Black women disproportionately. So I want to say that, and I want to encourage anybody that's in that situation to allow yourself to grieve, right? Allow yourself to feel the sense of loss, right? And find a community where you can express that pain and that hurt and that grief, and you find people that can support you in it, right? That can give you comfort, that can speak words of life into you. And along with that, because can I just give a little testimony, right? Because when I was 58 years old, the position that I had for almost 14 and a half years was eliminated. It was eliminated because I began to see the injustice, right, in the organization and speak up for it. And rather than them change or make some adjustments, they let me go. I'm 58, right? I'm like, what is I gonna do? And so what I did was allow myself time to grieve, right, and to feel the feelings. But then there's a point, because I think sometimes when things like that happen, a strategy can be, all right, let's see what's inside of me. Let's see what I can create. Tap into our sanctified imaginations. Right? Begin thinking, how can I innovate? How can I create something for myself and my family? Right? What skills do I have that I can leverage to create what I call economic autonomy, right? So I believe we have within us what we need. And what we need also is in the village.
Right.
What we need is in the community. So it involves us looking inward and looking outward.
I love that, right? And you're making me think about, to your point, Stacey Abrams, who won governor and was cheated out of the governorship, right? I remember at Proctor when she came and did her, she gave remarks and had talked about her loss and what that meant for her and how she went through like stages of grief. To your point, just how when you know something, an injustice has been done to you, there's going to be some grieving there, right? Because that you can't escape it.
Right.
And so she talked about, I went through all the stages of grief, and she said, but then I went to plotting and planning.
There you go.
Right, and so out of that, she birthed Fair Fight. And now look, out of that, she's birthed a whole line of books that she's written, right, under a different name.
Yes.
So it's, to your point, it's almost, and I think for her, that was a joy she had and that came from her family rooted in a Black faith tradition, right? And I think, to your point, that's how that looks in real time.
That's right.
And that's her resilience coming out saying, okay, I'm going to grieve. Because that's just human nature.
Absolutely.
But out of that, I'm going to be resilient and I'm going to come back even stronger. And now I'm going to impact future elections.
There it is.
I didn't win, but I'm going to make sure it didn't happen again. And then you have the two senators coming out of Georgia shortly after that, right, after her loss. So it's also, to your point, it's village. It should be rooted in village, and it's inward, and it should have outward consequences.
Absolutely.
So the outward consequence for her was, I started this Fair Fight, which has now impacted others being elected. So it didn't stop with her. It moved on and had impact on other people.
Yes.
When we tap into, right, and I would even say you find, I think that's also finding maybe another level of your purpose. If we are purpose, then we have levels to that purpose, right? And so I hear you saying it's a way, hey, there's another purpose in you somewhere that maybe you haven't tapped into.
That's right.
This is an opportunity to tap into that as you move through these stages of grief. And I always say it's so important to make sure that you always find yourself in community with others.
Absolutely.
Even when it's going good, right?
Absolutely.
Because that's what you're going to need to get through those times. And so I can never underestimate. We did I think it was last season, we did an episode with Deidre Reed, and we talked about the importance of finding your tribe. It's so important. It took me a long time to find it.
Yes.
It took me, if I'm honest, it took me a long time to find it, but that I had that something within where I was able to still maintain my sanity in the midst of until I found that. And so I know for me, I interact with my tribe a little differently than most folks, right? So I consider you, Dr. Camila, a part of that tribe.
I was going to say the same thing. I consider you a part of my tribe.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And so I want people to see it's not always about being talking to folks every day.
That's right.
But it's about knowing if I call Dr. Irie, she going to pick up, she going to help me out if I need it, and vice versa, right? When I call Camila, can you meet for lunch? We need to have a talk. We just check in, right? And knowing that. And so I just want people to see that sometimes it's about making sure you have people who are authentic, who are genuine, who truly see your intrinsic value that you have.
Yes. It's I like that you use the language of people that see you. One of the words that I think characterizes my ministry, particularly the ministry of the Gathering of the Womanist Church, where I co-pastor with Dr. Camila, is this Zulu concept of sawubona, right?
Yes.
That I see you, not physically necessarily, but I see you, your essence, your humanity, your value. And not only do I see you, but I see your ancestors, and you see mine, right? We are in this together, right? So this scene. And the thing about finding your tribe is we got to be open.
Yes.
We have to be open, right? We have to be allow ourselves a level of vulnerability.
Yes.
Right? And when we find our tribe, as the scripture says, iron sharpens iron.
Yes.
Right? So one person sharpens another. Within community, there are so many ideas for opportunities that can come up. Right? When you have a tribe, people will speak your name in rooms that you're not in that can give you opportunities. Right?
Yes,
So we cut ourselves off from possibilities and opportunities when we close ourselves off, right? When we do what, white supremacy tells us to do and be individualistic.
Yes.
Just concerned about ourselves. That's not ancestral.
Right.
That's not how our ancestors did it. It was a communal. It was about the village.
And to your point, and I love that you brought up Sal Bona, because that's a concept that I really unpacked in my doctoral work as relates to dealing with Black maternal care and mortality. So, because I think some of it is, and this is kind of the premise of my work, was we have to return to.
Yes.
There's a beauty in Africa as you look at some, African worldviews, and we're not fantasizing Africa. We know. We know there's some tension, right? We also know this is not the perfect place, but there are some deeply rooted ancestral things that still remain. And to return to some of those things can be how we are able to really tap into our joy.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's Ubuntu too, right?
That's right.
Even if we go to Nutu before it became Ubuntu as we know it today. Nutu meaning, right, that you have that divine spark in you, that it is there, right? So to me, it's returning to those things that I think allow us to be vulnerable, to be in community with others, and understand what it means to be in community with other people, and don't bring that westernized white supremacist way of thinking into the village.
And it's hard too.
Oh yeah,
because it's embedded in us, right?
That's
It's intrinsic. It's how we've been shaped and formed, and so there is a level of decolonization that has to happen.
Correct.
Right. And that is a process. I'm teaching a class at Eden right now on leadership and management of faith-based nonprofits and movements, right? But I'm doing it through an anti-colonial lens, right? What does it mean to create a nonprofit, whether that nonprofit is a church or an organization, right? What does it mean to do that with the lens of anti-coloniality? Right. What do our systems look like? What does salaries look like?
Yes.
Right. And so that is a process of deconstruction that is ongoing that we must engage in.
Oh, I'm so glad, and I'm glad you're teaching that class. We need that worldwide, because what happens, we do mimic white supremacist structures, and thereby we become that very thing that we detest.
Yes.
Right, by the way we are hierarchical in how we structure our organizations, how we, we really then, to your point, pay structure, pay scale, like it's all those things. And who's in leadership? If they're in leadership, do they really have the authority and the ability to lead, or are they always having to go back to someone else? And what does it mean to have men to really see those on staff with them as equals, whereby if someone comes to you about someone else's area, you don't answer for that and you don't make a move, you redirect.
That's right.
Right? And this is small things that turn to big things.
Because when you redirect, what you're doing is sawabona. You're seeing that this other person, they got the skills and the gifts. I don't need to be everything to everybody. I can't be.
Correct.
Right? But when you see the people who are in collaboration with you working, right, on a team, then you know how, and you're very comfortable. Right, redirecting.
Because look, you ought to have enough to do. Walking in your purpose.
Exactly.
And that's what makes us stronger, right? But to your point, though, I think that also has to do with some woundedness that a lot of us have that we have not dealt with. So it may manifest like, I'm a super nice person, I help everybody. So we have to be mindful of it. We see those kind of behaviors too, because sometimes that's rooted in something.
That's right.
So I think I always say when Emancipation Proclamation happened, we needed a mass therapy session. Because our folks think you came right out of a form of dehumanization never seen before. Yes. Set out to wander and to wonder. Right, and searching for your folks. So you never dealt with that. And to your point, epigenetics, we talk about that a lot, right?
That's right.
How that type of woundedness is passed on and we don't even know it. So I think a lot of times the behavior some people exhibit is out of a woundedness they don't even know they have and haven't dealt with. Now, some folks know exactly what they're doing, right? They're wounded too. They intentionally are causing harm. So I think that's another thing. So I love how you're teaching that, because I think that's part of the decolonization that has to happen. Yes. Even in our pulpits, by way of theological deconstruction. Because oftentimes in Texas in particular, that theological defense system that sanctioned enslavement, Jim Crow, lynchings, etc., is preached from black pulpits.
That's right.
It's a Chris Will theology, right? It's a Robert Jeffers theology. Those white church fathers in the DFW Metroplex area is still alive.
It is.
And so that's,
And it's alive in churches led by black pastors.
yes. And so tethered to that theology that's very destructive, right? Yeah. And so that's a work, and I think that is also what can preclude people from having a type of joy.
Yes.
Because now what happens when all the stuff is happening existentially around us is God is on the throne, he's going to take care of it.
Right.
We result to that kind of thinking, as opposed to God is on the throne, he's going to take care of it. What do I need to do?
Yeah. See, joy, the kind that we're talking about,
yes,
it empowers.
That's right.
It provides us with a sense of agency, a capacity, right? A belief that, okay, so I am equipped. I am equipped to handle these things.
And you know what else I think it sparks is imagination.
Yes, yes.
I was reading Ruha Benjamin's Imagination
Yes,
Manifesto.
yes.
And I'm going to tell you one chapter that really caught me, and I was like, man, this is part of our problem. And I would think it was chapter 3, Imagination Eugenics.
Yes. Yes.
That the
I haven't gotten to that section yet. But no, go ahead, talk about it. Talk about it.
So, she talks about, I'm just paraphrasing, but essentially the chapter is leaning into the imagination of white folk who have led them to do things to take us out.
Yes.
Whether that's Tuskegee experiment, right? Whether that's, Dr. Marion Sims back in the day who did, countless surgeries on black women with no anesthesia, though it was available. The quote unquote father of gynecology, right? And I said, you know what? I mean, she just kind of went through a lot of things, and we can think about all the ways in which eugenics can happen, right? How they feel who needs to be alive and we don't have to care about their humanity because they're less than human. So therefore, it really doesn't matter what we do. And it's also based on what we get out of it because they're disposable, right? Yeah. And I said, part of our issue is we have a borrowed imagination.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Whose imagination is operating up here? Is it yours? Is it ours? Or is it someone else's? Is it a white supremacist imagination that has been deposited in us, that has been embedded in us?
So first, I think we have to get to that now. Whose imagination am I using here?
Exactly.
Because what that does also, we do harm to one another.
And it's limiting.
Yeah, very much so.
It's limiting. It limits our ability to innovate and be creative.
Yes. And we have to, and you probably know, she talks about this, and I think this has to do with the joy we can have, which can lead us to be resilient and respond in ways that are life-giving, right? When she gave the example of, and I remember this even when I was in elementary school, they did this, because I was, in elementary school, I lived in Huntsville, Alabama, that's where I was born, and some students went to a Space and Rocket Center camp during the week on certain days, and they were the kids who were plucked out, right, as special. She talks about that. She said, that's where we go wrong. We pull out 1 or 2 children, black children, say, you are special, you're different. We're going to put you in this accelerator, this special program. The rest of you just go by what's in this book, or you go by this curriculum, while others are special, and therefore their imagination can run wild. Exactly. It's nurtured, it's nourished, right? And she said, that's ridiculous.
Exactly.
All children have the ability to imagine, right? And so I think we get that borrowed imagination, how we're socialized. I think from a sociologist standpoint, viewpoint, it would be, okay, how are these systems and institutions working, and how do they shape and frame society and how people interact and see them? The book is, I'm going to go back and read it again because it was really good. It's just very practical too,
Absolutely.
Right? And I think sometimes the type of joy we're talking about can't be tapped into. If you have a borrowed imagination, you can't because it's not yours. So you're only repeating and living what someone else has told you.
Right. And you only believe that certain things are possible.
Right.
Right. But joy expands
That's
our
right.
ability to imagine.
That's right. Because if we're saying it comes from the divine, we know that God, you can't limit God to a book. We can't even limit God to a name. Yeah.
And you know what that made me think about? Remember when we were in Brazil and we were in a sister circle with Baianas, right? The Afro-Brazilian women entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Right? Who sell a product called
A
cottage, right? And there was this young sister sitting there, and she was talking about challenges that she had in her family and just, struggling with, can I do this? Can I be a successful entrepreneur? And she said, because their language for the divine might be different from
Correct.
Those who are mainline Christian Protestants, right? But what she said was what she realized, the divine, which in her language was Olodumare, right, has given me all the ashe that I need to succeed and to be a successful entrepreneur, right? In our language, we would say the Holy Spirit
That's right.
has given me the power, right? It lives in me, right? So irregardless of the language,
That's right.
Right? For the divine, African diasporic, African Brazilians, people from the motherland, right, have this fundamental knowing that the divine has equipped us with what we need in every century, and in every iteration of us. With what we need.
And see, I think that is so important. And we're going to have a conversation, I think, next week, just around this diasporic conversation about how we have to, as Dr. Melvin Sands would say, not be afraid of our native tongue, right? And how that has the power to really pull us together and to work together. And so that young lady, when she said, because again, it was the type of joy she had, because she was, because now she told us her story rooted in struggle.
Exactly.
She was saying how she was struggling and how is this going to happen, but I know, because she also said, my mother passed this down to me.
Yes.
She passed her recipe down to me. So she said, I know I have what I need, but see, this existential crisis that I'm in is real. Yes. She named it, but she ended with, but I know I have everything I need.
That's it.
You know,
that shifted something in me. When I heard her say that, you see, that was 3 years ago?
Yeah.
I mean, that has stuck with both of us.
Yes.
That was powerful. It was a powerful knowing.
That whole circle was powerful.
Yes.
Even the two women who, and I think this is a form of resilience that led to the response that we saw. The two of the women clearly had some beef with
conflict.
each other.
Yes.
They were clearly beefing, right? But how I love how because I think it was a form of salbona too, right? Because they felt comfortable enough in this circle to name it. They, like we might say, so.
Oh no, they was.
She was like, Irie, the other day you did blah blah blah, and I didn't like it. They made me feel this way, and so the other young lady responded. It got a little heated, but then the mother stepped. They let it go so far. Then the elder stepped in, and by the end, they ended up hugging, everybody crying.
Yep.
But I think that's what they know. Like, we had this happen, but something in me, right, is given by divine, is calling me to something greater. Right. Where this conflict we have is not going to disrupt this village we've created.
That's it.
Right? Because we got to be in this village together, and therefore, y'all going to settle this, because we have to move on. Because it's something more. I mean, they're already up against, in Brazil, as you know.
Exactly.
And the way in which they practice their faith is not the norm in the country.
Right.
As we know what happened while we were there, the murder of one of their main leaders, right? So to me, that's joy as a witness. That joy is witnessing that it doesn't matter what's happening out here. Guess what? Me and my sister getting ready to reconcile, and I know it's struggling, but I'm going to make it. Because I have what I need. It's a matter of how this is going to play out. So it didn't get her down. And I also think they have the advantage of growing up not being with white supremacy in their face like we did, right? So clearly it's a colonized place of Brazil. But because, I mean, even with the Orishas being in the center of the city,
oh my gosh,
and, almost life size, where you're being affirmed. So it's kind of like that joy is being nurtured, and you're like, you know what? That's right.
Yeah.
That's a representation that has something internal.
Right.
That what's going on external can't touch.
Right.
And I believe it. That's right. A constant reminder.
Yeah.
So I think when we think about it in America, the ways in which we have to navigate what I would call certainly, I would say atrocities. I would say even dare say genocide in some cases, genocidal policies in some cases that look different. How we have to think about navigating that in this moment and not losing our minds. Yes, we go to church. But what are I would say some practical things that you would say could be some other spiritual practices that people might not have thought about? Because some people may, just because of their orientation to religion, to church, may just have these narrow ways of seeing spiritual practices that we might employ.
Yeah.
So what are some other things? So what are some things we can think about that can help us maintain that joy, nurture it, nourish it, so that it does not take us out, that we can be resilient in the moment, but also respond?
Yeah. One of the things that is helpful and has always been helpful for me personally and a lot of people that I know is getting by some water, right? Walking along the beach or going to a lake and just allowing yourself to commune, right, with the ocean, in the calm, in the quiet. So not isolation, right, but time set apart. That's what Jesus did, right? From time to time, set himself apart, went by the Sea of Galilee or wherever, or in a garden, right? There's this thing that people say now: go touch some grass,
right?
Right. So ground yourself, right? So those are some things. Another thing that I think us in Black faith traditions must become more comfortable with is ritual.
Yes.
Now we participate in ritual every Sunday, right?
Correct.
We take communion. We gather and we sing and we pray, right? Those are rituals.
We baptize,
right?
Yeah.
But there are other rituals. At the gathering, we had a Womanist Preaching and Leadership Conference this past July, and we did a ritual. We had a bowl of water. And we spoke into the water, right, our intention for the day, what we wanted to happen. And it was just beautiful. Every person walked by this beautiful bowl of water and they put their face in it and they spoke to the water. There's something powerful and healing about water. So what rituals can we create that have symbolism, right, for what we want to happen? So creating rituals, learning about various rituals, and reframing this idea that, ritual is somehow demonic, right? But we engage in rituals all the time.
All the time.
Right.
And to your point, some of that is we have to allow ourselves to not continue to be tethered to this westernized. I mean, they demonize African. Of course, I'm saying religion, but that's not what they would call it. It would have been spiritual systems,
Exactly.
right? They intentionally demonized that and stopped our ancestors from practicing that because they saw the power in it. So I would say we also have to go back and reclaim those rituals. And not be afraid of that. That was the whole point of making us afraid and calling it demonic, saying it's ungodly, and that was just a form of control. So we have to free ourselves up from that, so that we might then take on these rituals. I mean, there are a lot of books out there, right, that talks about rituals of resistance, for example, that we can tap into. Because I think we're going to need some of these tools to get through these next 3 years and where this country is headed.
Yes.
We're going to need that. We can't simply say we'll pray about it and God has it. Right? I think about Jehoshaphat when he got scared when all the folks arms were coming up against him, right? He called that nationwide fast. I'm like, don't even feed the animals. Nobody eat. But even in that, I'm sure he said God is in control, but guess what? God's still sitting there, go out there.
Yeah. And I think another strategy, sometimes we have to disconnect from social media, disconnect from CNN and MS, whatever we're watching, right, that gives us anxiety, because there's no way you can watch the news and not have some kind of anxiety. So sometimes we have to disconnect. We have to separate ourselves from those things visually and audibly. What am I trying to say? Audibly, right? That audibly.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Right, infiltrate us.
Yes,
right? To reclaim our sense of calm and peace. So disconnection from
definitely
those things.
from things and people.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, some people be like, you know what? Let me step away for a moment.
Absolutely.
So important to do. So yeah, that's good. I like that. So we're claiming some rituals, creating new rituals, disconnecting, unplugging from TV, from radio or podcast or whatever you're listening to, because it can be overwhelming.
Absolutely.
And we have to do that because we have to make sure we stay centered and that we're hearing clearly from the Spirit.
Yeah.
Because if we inundate ourselves with a whole lot of stuff, and a lot of this is disinformation, misinformation, so we're taking all that in.
Absolutely.
And if your mind is so crowded with all that, how can you hear from the Spirit on what you
Right.
should do?
Right. And I know what I'm about to say is comes from a place of a certain amount of privilege, but if you can do some traveling, if you can do some traveling with some sister friends
Yes.
or some brothers
Yeah.
or a group of people, maybe even out of the country, if you can do some of that, or just the next town or whatever, if you can do some traveling, I think that can be helpful. Because again, I'm going back to the time where me and you and a group of people went
Right.
to Brazil. The beautiful time that you and I had, we stole away and we went to the beach.
Yes,
just
we did.
you and I.
We sure
right?
did.
And we were there for hours and just talking and connecting and taking pictures. It was so healing,
Yes.
right? And then you and I got to know each other on a deeper level, and
Right.
it connected us in a way that we weren't connected before.
Correct.
So if you can find opportunities to do things like that, that can refuel you.
And it
right?
did.
Yeah.
It did. So much so I said, you're a good travel partner.
Yeah,
I
you
said, we
should.
got to go somewhere else. Because you don't always find good, especially international travel.
Right,
That's
right.
a different kind of travel. But I would even say, to your point too, Dr. Irie, if you can't go away like that, to your point, go to Fort Worth and explore Fort Worth for a day. Get a hotel. Y'all just get a hotel room and see some stuff in Fort Worth. Or if you only can stay in Dallas, okay, you probably hadn't seen all of it. Get a hotel somewhere. Y'all go explore something you haven't explored. To your point, it's getting away.
Yes.
It's saying I'm get away from my regular routine, whatever is rudiment in my life, to do something different.
Yeah.
Because you never know what you might see that sparks something.
That's
you just
right.
never know until you get away.
That's right.
And get away from it all. Now, usually when I have to get away from all, it is leaving the country because my phone's still ringing, as you probably, just like you. Sometimes you really have to steal away the best way you can. But I think that's the point, right, is to be intentional. Yes. And I think we were having this conversation on a call recently, and we talked about scheduling our rest.
Yes.
And not just taking rest, like, you know what? I'm not going anywhere today. No, like, you know what, next Friday, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Being very intentional about scheduling our rest.
That's right.
And not just doing it once we get so tired and we're worn out.
That's right. Because it's too late then.
Right.
It's really too late. Right.
Because at that point, you probably at your breaking point, right? So I think all that feeds our joy.
Right.
That allows us to be able to have the clutter away so we can hear clearly on what we might do. And that makes us resilient because we can then remember. Right, that we can then look back on probably what God has already done for us, what God has done for our ancestors. Like, those are the kind of, like, you know what, that's why we said it's going to be all right either way.
That's right. That's right.
Whether that's going to take us down the road like a king to death, right? Or whether it's going to take us down the road to having more of a death, of disconnecting from maybe family and groups that we were once with, where we're starting afresh.
Yeah.
Because that's real too, right? Sometimes it's about, I want more out of my life, which means I have to really get out of this circle that I'm in. And maybe the circle you know for a long time.
That's right.
And then dealing with, you think you better than us. Why, you doing this, you different. Yeah, you're right, I've changed. Because a caterpillar doesn't stay a caterpillar all its life.
Come on now.
Eventually it turns to a butterfly. That's saying that you already have the wings, all you have to do is fly. Right? So I think those are the kind of ways in which we're going to get out of this. Not just get out of this, what we see happening every day, but how we create something new.
Yes.
What is our vision of flourishing? Why are we
That's
looking at Project 2025? No, the joy ought to tell us, you know what? Joy is already a witness to what God can do when we tap into it.
Right. And where are the communities that are having those kind of conversations?
Correct.
Those conversations of what can we do? What can we create? How can we innovate? Right? Yes, we have to meet and we have to talk about what's happening. We have to talk about Project 2025. We
Right.
have to, but what's the next step?
Correct.
Because I get frustrated, right, when I go to these events and all we talking about is the problem. I need some strategies.
Right.
What is we going to do?
What is we going to do?
What do we have within us that we can create?
Correct. And I love that, right? And I think, again, ancestral memory. Mm-hmm. So that's where the maroon communities came from.
Yes.
Yeah, y'all got us enslaved. We're not going to chop this. We're not going to pick this cotton and chop this tobacco anymore. Because we know what this system is doing. How about we're going to get together down in this hush harbor, we're going to go up into those mountains, and they still free in the mountains. You know, cities later, they create their own communities. Like the Tejada we went to, up in the mountains, where the young people went off to university, right? But they came back and brought all that knowledge back because they're like, we're good up here. Right? Because they understand the system they're in, but they're like, but you know, we're going to create something up here.
That's right.
It's very life-giving
and
affirming. You know, we're looking around like this. It's very much we out here, right?
It's possible to create another world this world.
That's right.
I'm reading and teaching this class I'm teaching. I learned about this term pluriversality, right? So that's the idea that yes, we're in this system, but we can innovate and we can create something new even in this system.
Correct.
There are worlds.
Correct.
That can be happening simultaneously at the same time.
And that's what our ancestors have done, right? And so I think, and I'm teaching a class in our Howard Thurman Bible Institute next week where I'm going to start with, you know, Africans who shaped our faith. Then I'm going to talk about the birth of the independent black church, you know, kind of, but the last class is going to be, not my title, I took it from the book, A New World to Coming. What does it like to have an amazing village? What does that look like to have thriving? Like, what can we create? I believe we have everything we need to do that, but we have to understand, be on the same page, and deal with some of our attitudes, behaviors, etc., to come into that space where we can trust each other.
That's right.
Where I can know that you're authentic in the way in which you're showing up, and that your intentionality of coming into this space is to build. And I always say justice is not always about correcting systems and institutions. It's about creating a parallel system.
Come on.
That's my understanding of justice too, right? Sometimes, I mean, you just create some over here while you're working over here. And that's kind of the work I did with the, you know, my DMIN work around Black maternal mortality. You know, I'm like, yeah, we got to deal with the healthcare industrial complex. But at the same time, here's how we create a circle of care.
There you go.
Because outside of this system, because we have everything we need to do that too. Right. So, so important. Right. And I think we talk about joy as a witness and this idea about resilience and response. These are some of the things I think we have to do, how we understand joy, but then some of the things we have to do to decolonize our minds, disconnect, and get rid of that borrowed imagination.
That's right.
And have your own imagination. But then being with like-minded people.
That's right.
You know, it's to your point, so you can't understand what it really means to live out Sawabona.
And that's what Fannie Lou's classroom is doing. That's what you've been doing here. You're creating a space. You're curating a space where we can have these conversations, where our imaginations can get stimulated, right? When we can develop these ideas of strategy and what we can do. And there's comfort in this, right? Of hearing testimonies of experiences. And so this is a world within a world that you've created here.
And that's the goal, right? That's where it's just very organic, but we're really dealing with the real realities. And what can we, practical things people can do they may not have thought about. And for me, it's also, because I hope every time we do an episode, I'm being challenged and learning something new. Which is why I bring folks in who are much smarter than me and have more knowledge than I do, so I can learn in the process, right? So, because I think everybody has a brick to bring. Nobody holds all the knowledge. Again, that's understanding what it means to be African.
That's right.
That God is always constantly speaking, right? Not stagnant as they would have us to believe.
And God is not always speaking only to this group of people.
Correct.
Like God speaks to all of us, but are we listening?
But that brings up another part, that what we have to do and how joy can overflow is when we expand the table. Because too often, if you're around a table, everybody pretty much is going to think the same. You know, you have some nuances, but we close out perhaps people who you may not think know anything, but know a whole lot. We might need to go get the brother down there on the corner, come in here and talk to us about what it's like for a thriving community.
Yes.
Because he has something to offer too, right? So it's about expanding the table, and it's also about understanding that God is known by many names.
Yes.
and that we don't cut off people because what you call God, that's not what we call God. Right. So part of that is that ongoing, what I would call that untethering to a particular brand of theology. It does not serve us in the long run.
Right. So expanding the table, and sometimes it's about building a new table. As you know, the gathering received a grant,
That's right.
And our grant is building new tables. And so that's what we're actively working on right now.
I
So
love
yes,
it.
we can expand. Sometimes we have to discern when it's time to just build a new one.
I agree with that. Because sometimes you've tapped out that table.
That's right.
And you can see there's not going to be real movement, right? And I think we had a conversation about this too, Sometimes you're not looking to be with others anymore. You're not trying to get them to come along. You're saying, okay, we're going to go ahead and move on and do what we know we need to do.
Exactly.
Because we believe in ourselves
Yes.
enough to do that, right? So, wow, it's almost 1 o'clock. I know it always goes so fast. So, Dr. Irie, do this. So what's the last thing you would leave us with? What's the last thought you would leave us with on today as relates to joy as a witness?
I would say tap in to who you are, and embrace yourself fully, flaws and all.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Look, just straight. That's it.
Yeah. And I say that because one of the things that I did was tap into my name, Irie. Do you know what it means?
I don't.
It's a Rastafarian word. Irie is a Rastafarian name. It is a spiritual name, and it means everything is all right.
Come on. I never knew that about you. About your name?
I know. I had to. My travel to Brazil was because I got a grant to discover to reclaim joy as my birthright, and I started with my name.
Yes.
Right. So, what is your name? What does it mean? I guarantee you, when we excavate, when we exegete our own names, there is joy in our name. There's something about how we were named that means something that can help us tap into that joy. Mm-hmm. So when I say know who you are, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because our names are not given to us by accident. They mean something. Mm-hmm. They mean something that can give us that sense of joy.
Yeah, I love that. So your name, and I also think, you made me think about what I discovered, and this is where Mama Itihari and Dr. Itihari Torre, but she's Mama Itihari to
absolutely.
us. And Dr. Melva Sampson, when we were at Howard, because sometimes I didn't know this till they had me on the floor, because they'll do that to you.
Oh, yeah.
You think you just get ready to get a little prayer, next thing you know, you laid out somewhere. But tapping into your name, and for me, it was tapping into my ancestral lineage, where I found out about clan mothers in my family. And so that brought a whole nother meaning to why I do what I do.
Right.
Because as clan mothers in the Cherokee Nation, they were responsible for administering justice,
right,
for keeping the peace, for maintaining, law and order within where they were. And I was like, oh, I never knew that. So
yes.
it kind of opened for me. I was like, that's when I know what I'm called to. And what my purpose is, which is why no one can tell me it's not that.
There you go.
Right?
Because you know.
Because I know. So however you feel about it, that's how you feel about it. But I know for myself, and I believe in it enough. And I live it out every day, right? So that's good. I like that. It starts within.
That's right.
As Howard Thurman would say, you got to live that out of life from your inward sanctuary.
Yes, yes.
And so that takes work.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's ongoing work.
Yeah, and find your people.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Find your tribe, your
That's
village.
so important, because you're going to need that.
And lean in.
Because if you find the right village, you feel, to your point, you said joy also requires vulnerability. Yes. And doing that. So thank you, Dr. Irie. We appreciate you coming.
It's a joy.
Back to Fannie Lou's classroom. So next week, check it. Next week, well, let me first say this. You know, as you see, I'm wearing our nice little T-shirt here. Some of you have supported us by purchasing your Family Classroom T-shirt. We still have that T-shirt available for you to purchase. It helps us to keep the podcast going. So you can either scan the QR code or you can go to our website, friendshipwest.org/justice, and you will see then a link for you to purchase your T-shirt. Excited about next week's conversation. We kind of started some of that this week. We'll have my good friend Asmira Hamari Davis, who is now married. I'm trying to remember her new married name. Her fiance was on the trip with us. Yeah. So she'll be here next week with her counterpart. I think he's from the Congo. You know, and Asmira is Palestinian, part Palestinian. So I think it's gonna be a good conversation about this diasporic conversation we need to have as we talk about, as you know, Dr. Irie, there are 6 regions of Africa. It's the country is divided into 5, and then they consider the diaspora being the 6th region, which includes us. Right. So I want to just have this conversation because I think some of what we see online about these diasporic wars, some of that is manufactured, some of it is algorithms, some of that is AI generated. Like we do have to deal with the ways in which we are not always in community the way in which we should be in learning each other. So I'm excited about that conversation next week, and it's called When We Gather, the Power of a Unified Diaspora. So super excited about next week. So we look forward to seeing Elam and Asmira with us on next week. And do we have the Howard Thurman Bible Institute? We don't have a graphic for that. Okay, so whether you're a member of Friendship West or not, Howard Thurman Bible Institute is open. I believe you can go to friendshipwest.org and register. It starts on Monday as a series, an array of classes that are available for you to take part in. All different types of classes. Can you go online, right? .org, and it's just on the homepage. I'm asking Ashley because she's been very helpful working with getting HBI going for this time around. But I'm excited. I'll be teaching a class called We Cannot Be Erased. And so I'll be doing, again, Monday nights will be Africans Who Shaped Our Faith. The second night is really be talking about resilience and response, the birth of the independent Black church, but also reclaiming our African spirituality and not being afraid of that. And then the third night, we'll talk about a new world to come in where we start using our imagination to talk about where we might go from here. Oh, and then we'll be virtual. My session will be virtual 2 nights, Monday and Tuesday. But then if you're local, Wednesday, we'll be back in person. But we have over 60 folks who have registered online, and we have about maybe 15 in person, but they'll now be online Monday and Tuesday. So I'm really pushing my classes, what I'm doing in this moment. Sign up for We Can't Be Erased. But it's going to be a great time. Howard Thurman is always great. So go online, look at that, and see the offerings. Because it's a way for us to be in community with one another, and it allows you to, your point, Dr. Irie, you may find purpose. You may have your purpose affirmed. You may even go to another level in your purpose. Like, it's always good to be in community with one another and exchanging information. So thank you for being here. We look forward to seeing you next week, 12 o'clock noon in the classroom.
From the church house.